So we talked about this architecture is a living thing, so we want to make sure we're planning for maintaining it. It's also part of Rule 940 that we maintain the architecture. But the maintenance plan that we need to be worried about who is responsible, when we need to update it, what we need to maintain, how the changes are managed. There will be if we have a draft of a maintenance plan. It'll include things for how we use the architecture kind of in a summary fashion, a lot of what we talked about today, but then it'll lay out the maintenance, who's responsible for it, who owns, who's helping, the team is everybody, but more importantly, it's how we're going to maintain it, the processes that are put in place. This is the change form. It may change a little bit more from what it is right now, but this gets us to the basics. What it's trying to do is capture what it is you're asking for, who you are, so as to the requester. So there's contact information, a short title, a description of what this project or this change is. It could be, I need to change the name of my organization from X to Y. Instead of being the city of Carmel, I'm the metropolis of Carmel. So now I want to make that change. So that would be something very simple. Or it could be, I'm adding a new project. So this is my project. Well, here's a new project selection. What are the systems that are involved in it? Going through the Suburbico or whatever it might be, adding those. This project status, whether it's something you're proposing or thinking about, is already ongoing.
So this is what.
And then the maintenance team would just be for the MPO staff as far as actions and whatnot's concerned. But in addition to this information, if you've got something about a concept of operations for that project, highly valuable to guide what's going to go into the project. Like a detailed description, requirements documents, whatever it might be, it's valuable stuff to get into this process. That way we can go through it. Whoever's maintaining your architecture and updating
that's where we just say, hey,
then knows what it really entails.
These two changes, and then
so this will be available as a download from the website as well. And whatever's here will be entered into a maintenance log. And so the maintenance, just submitting the change doesn't mean it's going into the architecture tomorrow. Probably the process will be built up, get a certain slug of changes and then make all the changes at one time.
Then that'll be on our end, that'll basically.
Yeah.
Now is the maintenance log directly generated by the system?
Okay. What I do is I keep a separate Excel spreadsheet with all this information in it. This is how we did the update. Any changes we made, we put into the maintenance log.
Jonathan in there.
And we have that already.
Yeah. For this project. Yes. So what this is doing, we take a change form, we put in the contact information, who is coming from, what it is, then we disposition it. It may be something that, Jonathan put something in, we say, there's no way in hell we're doing this. Okay. But that's not been the case so far. So it's a recommended update. Yep. Okay. Well, when's it going in? We can put a target in there and follow that and when it was incorporated. And then if we know what's changing. Is it the elements that are changing? Is it everything that's changing? Is it just the website? Maybe there's just a change that needs to be made to the website, whatever it might be. So that's the maintenance log, tracking everything. Again, we build up a set of changes, make a slug of changes at one time. The process, stakeholders filling out the change request form, the maintainer, IMPO, logging those changes, evaluating the changes, and then implementing the changes through the process we described.
And so that's where it gets into just what we decide, how often are we doing it? And then is that where the MPO just goes, okay, this makes sense and we improve it? Or is that where we should be reconvening just maybe a Zoom call every 6 months or something? I mean, how does that's up to us. Okay.
Yes. I think you would have a change control board.
Okay.
And you have that sense, they would handle that review change requests for corporation. That'd be the stage at which they would input their approval. We'd have, approve, then they'd approve, and then probably would be another approval maybe by
Yeah, so convening it, everyone agrees this makes sense.
Right.
They approve it, and then we just have a
committee chair would do that.
In a certain sense, you wouldn't even have to get people together and say, here's the list of changes we've got. Anybody have any objections to making
Right.
changes to the architecture?
Me an email.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm getting everybody together, go through a whole list of things,
I
like,
guess-
okay, we're gonna change the name to Metropolis.
I guess it depends on what,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it depends what is on the list, cause if they're all minor things, that's an email, but if it's like something major, then we would probably wanna just,
Right,
everyone looks at it.
yes,
Well, and I think depending on where the change is coming from, whatever agency, I mean, they will obviously be a big stakeholder that will work closely with the NPO on what that change needs to happen. But I really think letting the entire group and everyone aware of what change or what addition or change has happened would be a good thing, because that's the intent of this update, that you are providing that information to everyone who may or may not be impacted directly, but they at least are aware of, okay, they need to know of some sort of change that is happening through the region, and at least they will be well positioned to let their teams know as well, so.
What if there's, I'm just thinking, so if a stakeholder changes their name, so Lucas Oil Stadium, their sponsorship runs out for name rights, and in 10 years they rename themselves. They're not plugged into this process, but say the MPO realizes one day, because we look outside, the sign was changed, we're like, oh, we need to update that in the architecture. Would we add that? Like, we would probably have to fill out a request form, because it comes back to us anyway, or we would.
Fill out a request form just
Put
to
it in
keep
that
track
log.
of things.
Okay.
You know,
Cause I'm trying to think, cause in our old architecture, we just updated, it still said RCA Dome. It had something else in there that was, Conseco Fieldhouse from 20 years ago, so.
and Becca changed,
Yeah.
or Howard said.
So the MPO can essentially identify our own changes.
Right.
Just for the housekeeping kind of stuff like that.
And frankly, for that matter, for simple changes like that, you really need to go through the change form, just put it into the maintenance.
Right, cause no one's gonna disagree
Just
that
track it.
the stadium changed the name.
Just track it.
just put your operating procedures for simple changes, you ask the operating procedures to change the maintenance log. And then that will go to the review. So everybody be aware of it. Yeah,
Aware of it, got it.
they said,
Right, cause people they have their own copies of the database potentially.
you wanna make sure that.
When it comes to engagement, that's the one thing about, architecture I've seen change in the last several years is when people saw the architecture was so broad and expansive, they didn't know how to grab a hold of it. You put things in terms of projects, and they have ownership of those projects, and they're in the architecture, their engagement goes up. Now they have vested interest in that particular project element of the architecture. And that's, I think we talked about that, how do you get more engagement? That's, you gotta get them a place in the architecture they can see it. So, this list of projects feeding into the transportation planning aspects, getting into the implementation. I think that process